Students of Reddit who had a romantic relationship with a teacher. How did it start and how did it turn out? Story 1. I slept with one of my professors in college. At the time, I was 19 or 20 and she was in her mid-30s. I went to see her during her office hours. We talked for a few minutes, and when I went to leave, she gave me a long hug and told me, "You give really nice hugs," as she held onto my arms. I asked for her number and went on my way. We exchanged a few flirty text messages over the next few days before she invited me over to her apartment to help her hook up a new TV she had bought. We ended up sleeping together about 10 times before she moved away to take a new job at a different school. Story 2. Went to a college where all the professors were very close with the students, would eat in our dining hall, had offices in our dorm buildings, and would have many events to promote relationship building between faculty and students. We also had a mandatory boot campish class that was capped at 20 students, so naturally we got to know many of our professors well. I had that class with a lot of girls in my hall, and we were all obsessed with our professor. He was attractive, but mostly he was hot because of his voice, how he spoke to people, and how intelligent he was. Naturally, he was just a smooth guy. We would go to office hours all the time, and I had friends jokingly bring condoms with them, sometimes in hopes that something would happen. Nothing ever did. I stayed in touch with him throughout undergrad and saw him around campus often. Then, one day, post-graduation, I was feeling particularly brave, and I sent him a message on Facebook to meet up for a drink, and that I needed to pick his brain about something. I fully intended to make a move, but wimped out. When I got home, I continued messaging him and started flirting hard. We basically came to the consensus that we both wanted to have but that we needed to keep it quiet. Our school had just had a huge scandal of professors sleeping with students. The next night, I went to his place and basically jumped him. We are still in touch, but it only happened one time. I've kept my end of the bargain by not talking about it, but it's incredibly hard not to brag to undergrad girlfriends who also all wanted to bang him. Dang, glad to hear that in the end, both of you got what you wanted. Good thing that you kept your mouth shut. If you shared that little secret of yours with someone, you could have literally ruined his life. Story 3. Have a friend who brings his fiancé on double dates to the movies and parks and stuff with my wife and I. They met in high school. She was our math teacher. They've been together since he was 15, and now he's 25. So it's still kind of weird because she makes super inappropriate jokes sometimes around just me or me and him. But she's super nice, friendly woman. They are about 11 years apart, if I recall. Wedding is next January. Story 4. When I was a senior in high school, I was a member of a club. We went to state for a competition and won, which got us into nationals. Nationals was during the summer, so technically I wasn't a student anymore and was in California. On the last day, my room's phone rang. It was the teacher who had been hosting our trip. I had known her for 4 years, and she was my favorite teacher. She asked me to come over to her room. I went over there, and surprisingly, to me at least, she tried to kiss me. It was so out of left field for me. She could tell that I wasn't into it, and she apologized, and that was the end of it. As a side note, she had lost her husband a couple of years before, and he and I had the same first name, so I actually think this was some kind of transference. This story sounds really sad and disturbing. Poor woman must have been going through a lot. Good job for keeping it in your pants and not doing anything that night. It could have done more harm than good after she realized what she had done. Story 5. It started innocently enough. She was my chorus teacher, fresh out of college, and only 6 years older than me. My brother was actually dating her friend from high school. I used to cut class and say I had a music lesson, and we'd just hang in the music room, talk about books, music, and movies. Then she started complaining about her relationship a lot, needing hugs, which I was more than happy to help with. It eventually turned into making out, and we finally started hooking up when she gave me rides home after school. I honestly felt like I had found $1 million, but couldn't tell anybody about it. It was weird. Then she got weird, asking for her hugs in front of the entire class. I knew everyone knew. I started riding home with my friends again. Then she just started to show up at my house. Had a very awkward combo with my dad, who knew exactly what was going on, but was so impressed he just kept saying, "Damn, she's pretty." Ghosting hadn't been invented back then, but I did the best I could. Eventually, she chilled out. A few months later, I stopped by her room during our normal hangout session, and she apologized, told me she was going through a lot with her crappy boyfriend and needed some attention from someone that actually liked her. We didn't talk much after that. I graduated soon after, but we're friends on Facebook, and she actually married a decent guy and has a nice family. I'm very relieved we were never found out. It would have been devastating to both of us. Story 6. I had a relationship with my high school English teacher. She was a new teacher out of college, and I was a senior. We worked together on the yearbook. I was the editor, and she was the staff advisor. We got very close working after school and on weekends, and developed a relationship of mutual respect, but it was all very professional. This was before digital pictures, so I would take film to be developed, and then we would sort through the best pictures for the different layouts. Somehow, a roll of her own personal film got mixed in, and there were pictures of her at a party and hanging out with friends. I said, "I think these are some of yours," and as I am flipping through, I get to a series of pictures where she is making out with another woman. She immediately grabbed the pictures and turned bright red. I smiled and told her not to worry about it, and I never said anything to anyone. Being a Midwestern Catholic school in the 90s, that would have put her out of her job in a heartbeat. She was very reserved and cautious after that, and there was a weird tension between us that never really went away. The year wrapped up, and I graduated, and she announced that she was moving out of state and not coming back for the following year. I still had to submit the last few pages with graduation photos to the yearbook company, and I needed her signature for final approval. So I called her to set up a meeting, and she invited me to her apartment. We sat together on her couch without saying too much, and she kissed me. One thing led to another, and we ended up spending the afternoon in her bedroom together. The whole thing was incredibly surreal. It was just a total unloading of stress, passion, and unsaid words. When it was over, we got dressed, we hugged and kissed one last time, and said goodbye. I turned in the yearbook and never saw her again. She moved to California, quit teaching, and became an advocate for the homeless. To this day, I still wonder how she remembers and feels about that time together. Dang, it really sounds like a surreal experience. Looks like accepting the fact that she was into other women in a place where that was probably very frowned upon did you some real good there. Geez, why couldn't something similar have happened to me when I was back in school? Story 7. I fell in love with the workshop supervisor at my university that guides the workshop that I need for my education. She is about a year older than I am. I am doing some small arts and crafts and leatherworking. She was interested in getting something, and she bought something custom. I can't remember how it started out, but for some reason or another, we had some drinks, which ended in a night spent together and a relationship. We discovered an attraction to each other. She went to the faculty director with the situation and explained it. Since she cannot give marks on my work and is only a guide in the eyes of the university, they approved of the relationship. That was about 3 years ago. We are still together as I am finishing my education. The relationship moved on from the flirt which it all started with to something deep. We've lived together for 2 years now, and she helps me with running the 2 companies that I set up aside from my studies. When I finish my education next year, I will even propose to her. Small edit. I just want to clarify that at the start of this relationship, we were well past the 18 years old mark.